Hello, we're back with another Play or Pass, where we jump into some co-op and multiplayer games and give you our thoughts on whether or not they're worth picking up. If you want to join myself and Nex for more co-op and multiplayer content, feel free to hit the sub button below and sit back each week as we review and play through all sorts of different titles. Today we're covering the free-to-play action MMO, Conqueror's Blade. Conqueror's Blade is a real-time tactical siege RPG set in an open world inspired by medieval and feudal cultures. As a player, you have the ability to customize your general, which serves as your warrior on the battlefield, and you have the ability to lead a squad of soldiers which you can move around, order into various formations, and use to your advantage to turn the tide of the fight. The game itself is centered around 15v15 battles, where you join other players in a fight against either AI or opposing enemy players, and as you fight with your main hero, you'll gain XP and level over time. Not only that, but the soldiers you take with you will level over time, allowing you to customize them as well. Conqueror's Blade kind of feels like someone threw Total War, Mountain Blade and Dynasty Warriors into a blender. And to be honest, that's not too much of a bad thing. While in battle, you and your team have to fight tooth and nail over strategic points on the map. And while you wage war with your enemy, you'll also have to outthink, outmaneuver and outplay your opponents with careful management of your squad of soldiers. One wrong play can have your men absolutely decimated in the blink of an eye, such as the vulnerable rear of a shield wall getting charged by the enemy from behind, making the mistake of using your cavalry to rush into enemy spearmen and pikes, or leaving your archers out in the open to be attacked. Oh no. That guy just killed all of my gunmen in one shot. That is nuts. And because this game is one of attrition where you need to wear down the enemy army, being careless with your units can be catastrophic to the team win. Originally, the game was released in 2019, but since then it's had a number of changes, new weapons, updates, and an overall boost in the game's positive reviews. So we thought it was a great time to jump in and find out in 2020 if Conqueror's Blade is a play or a pass.
We have always been able to count on a medieval game to jump on for a quick session, but each have been similar instance battles centered around a very deep and intricate combat system. Of course these are all good things, but there is certainly room for the feature set Conqueror's Blade claims to provide. Creating your character has enough variety, but nothing too fancy. A bunch of presets to set yourself apart from your friends. But you get the impression it's really not the sort of game where you invest in the aesthetics of your character in the same way as other MMOs. The tutorial mode is fairly standard, not a huge amount of instruction, but not much is required. Movement is quite fluid and responsive, but it lacks that full freedom of movement you may want in an action game in terms of killing enemies and general outplay potential. This opinion may change after longer amounts of playtime, however. You attack and block with left and right click, and each weapon gives you access to 4 on-use skills. Your skills can be picked from a selection of options that the weapon has to offer in a skill tree. The finale of the tutorial has you fight in a medium-scale battle to capture some points and defeat some enemies. After having mastered the combat mechanics, here you get to learn the strategy element.
Look at that, formation. Oh, that's so cool.
Every hero can control one set of units at a time, to provide assistance in various ways. Your personal set of units are coloured yellow, allied units in blue and enemies in red. You can set your units to move to a location, take a military stance, use their ability or follow you, allowing you to block off choke points or position archers to take out units from afar. You get XP through doing MMO related quests that aren't dissimilar to any generic titles in the same genre. You make your way to an NPC who will ask you to achieve something. Once you do it, you go back for the reward, rinse and repeat. There seem to be a huge number of challenges and achievements that you end up completing without knowing. These offer significant XP at least in the early stages of playing. The main generic activity is matched battles. 15 versus 15 where you queue up to either field battle, a resource-based mode that has you defeating enemies and capturing points in order to reduce the enemy's points to 0. And siege battle, an attack and defend mode where the attackers must capture each of the enemy points before the timer ends. Otherwise they lose and the defenders win. Territory wars is where you and your alliance declare war on other alliances, where you fight them in open world field battles. Here the rules are different in that you don't respawn when killed, but are instead kicked out of the battle with a 2-minute timer before being able to return. The size, however, is still 15 versus 15. Expeditions are the PvE element, bringing 5 players together to overcome scenarios. We really enjoyed the small amount of this we did. It provided a good opportunity to try things out in a fairly unchallenging environment. Your success in battles will come from a combination of hero play and your units. Managing your unit types, however, has a complexity of its own. The grasping of this is key to getting tons of values out of your units or none at all.
A huge core of the game revolves around each general bringing with them a number of troops into battle. Each player has a maximum leadership of 700, and each unit will cost a different amount depending on their ability and rank. When you're in the battle itself, you only have the ability to lead one unit at a time, so you'll have to make a careful decision about what unit you begin the game with, depending on whether you're attacking or defending, and what units the rest of your team begin with. To create a unit, you first need to head to the barracks by pressing U. Here you can spend your bronze currency to recruit any units that you have unlocked and add them to your army. To unlock new units, you need to go to the unit trees and spend honor points to research new technologies and work your way down each tree to get the soldiers you want. Once you've decided on your troops and you've recruited them, you then have the option to customize them. As you use each unit in battle, they'll earn XP and level up. And as they level, you can open up their skill tree and put points into skills that increase damage, increase defense, accuracy, and even add more men to the squad. In addition to leveling your units, you can also add doctrines, which are permanent buffs that you find through excavating sites around the map. These doctrines provide further buffs to your units, such as additional health, greater defense, and more damage. Overall, the troops you choose will depend on the style of play you enjoy. You have the option of picking shock troops to flank your enemy and deal massive damage through a charge. You have skirmishers who can soften up the opponents with javelins before engaging, archers for range support, shielded units for holding choke points, and many, many more.
The weapons come in both ranged and melee variants, aiming at assisting the battle in really unique ways. The shortbow is great at stacking damage onto enemy heroes with a number of evasive options to avoid their attacks. The glaive is a powerhouse for clearing out light infantry with good AoE options, and dual blades can be used for assassinating other heroes and infiltrating unsuspecting units. Players have a horse for faster travel speed, and you can attack with your weapons from atop of one. This gives you the choice to flank an enemy instead of going head on, useful particularly as it's quite a strategy-oriented game. As is common in most of these medieval action titles, there is quite a steep learning curve, particularly here because the matchmaking seems quite off, often putting inexperienced and veteran players together. With so much to figure out, the more experienced players are able to wipe out the less experienced pretty quickly. Add to this the quite significant increase in strength a high-leveled character has and gear, it can amplify this issue quite a bit. It's a free-to-play title, so it's worth mentioning if there are any payment options people will have a problem with. There seems to be two main avenues for microtransactions. One is the Battle Pass, a fairly standard model these days, and the premium account route, which boosts XP and currencies you get while playing by 30%. This of course works to speed up how long it takes to level up your hero and units. Keep these things in mind when deciding to play if this bothers you. Despite its apparent lack of depth in some areas, we had quite a good experience. I personally prefer the more Twitch-based reactionary play, but bias thrives in strategic situations. This is most likely why my units decided to abandon me at one point. Every time I put the guys like, oh, where my guys gone? Except this guy. I like this guy. Where's the rest of you? It is however satisfying to delete groups of units or defeat enemy heroes by outplaying them. Sadly not something I have many clips of.
What happened?
I used my he's come back to me, so sick. He kicks me.
Straight away, Conqueror's Blade throws you into the thick of PvP, and after we navigated the menu to add friends and make a party, Nex and I joined forces to jump into a 15v15 siege battle. To be honest, the first few games for us were a little rough, but after we found the right rhythm and understood the mechanics of both our characters and our troops, we began to settle into the game and become less of a hindrance to our team. It quickly became clear that failure or success was heavily linked to teamwork, troop management, tactics, and understanding the benefits and limitations of your own general, and the specific weapon that you choose to use. All of this creates an intense feeling of battle, and one in which you always have one eye on the enemy and another eye on your ally. And it feels like this because you don't want to be flanked or outplayed by the enemy, while at the same time you have to be ready to provide support to your team and play to each other's strengths. This can be anything from defending your team's archers with shields, or placing your own ranged units to fire over the heads of the infantry in front. In addition to the unit-based gameplay, amid all of the chaos of the fighting ground troops, there are small pockets of battles that involve your general and an enemy general. And for us, this PvP style gameplay adds a welcome element to an otherwise one-dimensional troop-based play. You have to be careful not to overextend yourself into enemy lines, because you'll probably struggle to take on a unit of troops and an enemy general at the same time. Overall, we gave Conqueror's Blade a 3.5 out of 5, and for us it's a play. While it does have its issues with balancing skill in matchmaking, the movement and hitboxes can sometimes feel off, and the more you play, the harder things become to unlock, which encourages microtransactions. However, the epic scale of siege battles, the choice of tactics and units, the RPG elements, and the varying maps and game modes makes this game a great choice for fans of games like Mount & Blade, Total War, and Dynasty Warriors. Let us know in the comments if you've played the game and what you think, or whether or not you agree with our review. We're the Bullet Sponges, and we'll see you in the next one.